So the class of 2023 is preparing to sit down for the final national senior certificate exams. The Matric exams are set to start on the 27th of October. Seago Maapola is an educational psychologist. She will be giving professional advice to grade 12 learners. Seago, on that note, good afternoon and thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me.
So we're obviously seeing Matrics enter this high-pressure environment for over the next month or so. And at this point, we're wondering how, these students best can mentally prepare for such a testing, pressuring time in their lives.
Sure, it is going to be quite stressful and it's an anxiety-provoking situation. And I would like to just express the difference between anxiety and stress, as a lot of times students and parents use the concept interchangeably. So stress is a response to a certain life event, such as exams. So it is the response, which then threatens how we're able to cope. Whereas anxiety is uneasiness or tension in anticipation of a test or exam or whatnot. So it is important to figure out, where is the feeling lying? Is it beforehand or is it after the fact? And so it is important that you are aware of the triggers that you might feel. We often see that psychologically, if students are going to be overly stressed, that they will continuously worry about the amount of studying they have to do, about what's in the exam. And I often say that the only thing we have control over is the amount of effort that we put into studying. We don't have control over what's going to be in the paper. We don't have control over who's going to mark the paper. So literally the only thing we have control over is the input. So if you're able to give as much input and then know that everything else outside of that lies outside of your control, I hope it helps a little bit. Also, it's important to note, if you are feeling you're irritable or you're feeling overly sad because of the stress that you might feel, and know where to go when you are feeling those emotions. So a very supportive structure is quite important, and for parents and communities and guardians as well, it's important that you take note of the timetable or the schedule. I often advise as well that every single student have a certain schedule which they're able to share with their loved ones in the house, that will just help them to keep them accountable to actually what they said they would set out to do. And of course, during the time that we have to study, we have to be a little bit flexible when it comes to chores and whatnot. So it's quite important that we're also able to maintain healthy coping skills during these very, very stressful times. And so that just helps us to manage our emotions, and particular coping skills would be keeping a routine as much as possible, being able to get in plenty of sleep. I do understand that it's exams and that time is a bit tight, but sleeping and eating well are so, so important to give your body what it needs in order to run as much as it needs to. And of course, being able to limit the use of your phone.
Well, you've touched on quite a number of issues there, because you've spoken about how students can best prepare. You've spoken about the responsibility of parents and guardians at home, whilst Matric learners are obviously writing the exams. You've also alluded to maintaining physical health or a healthy lifestyle as they write exams. What's the role of setting realistic expectations, writing exams and the results set to come out after?
It is very important that you're realistic. So obviously the preliminary exams help us determine how much we know and how much we don't know. So if, for example, you were able to get a 60% in the prelim exams, it is unrealistic to think that you will get a 90%, right? Because between then and now, there's really little time that you would have had to gain all that information. But of course, going through past papers and going for extra tuition does help to just fill in the gaps a little bit. So it is important to know what your what your capabilities are and work according to those. And I think by now parents also know that these are my child's limitations and these are areas in which my child excels in, and to also just put in extra effort in terms of praising your child for the amount of time they study, for the amount of effort they put in, and not so much the result. The result is a byproduct of the effort that's put in, as well as the capability.
No, absolutely. We're speaking about tools to obviously empower those who are entering the stressful period. How does one go about admitting that they need help in the first place?
It is not an easy process. I think it definitely requires a certain level of self-awareness. You know how you are on a regular basis when you aren't experiencing as much stress. So when you start, for example, not eating well, not sleeping well, using unhealthy coping skills, then you need to know that I'm actually sort of heading for trouble. And there are little telltale signs that I think by now all of us know that if I start doing this, I'm probably not okay. And so everybody's signs look different, but it is important that there is a certain level of self-awareness, and the people around us as well help us quite a lot when we are feeling a little bit more irritable, when we're looking a little bit more sad, and just maybe bring that awareness to the fore if, for example, we haven't picked it up. So it's important that in as much as you have to give your child or your child space as they study throughout the exams, that, you know, when you notice certain things, you can just say, hey, let's take a walk together, 5-minute walk, or let's cook together, just to give them a bit of a break as well, because it is important that we are also able to maintain our mental health during the study and exam period.